Well, very good afternoon to all of you. I'm absolutely delighted to be here again, talking to you about luxury, about hidden luxury, and about talking the differences, the evolvement, the change of paradigms in our field. And I guess we all agree that luxury, as it has been many, many years ago, is not quite the luxury that we talk about today. So, what is luxury not? Luxury is definitively not the bling bling as we knew it, the golden bathtubs, the oversized bath towels in uncounted numbers. It is not about the big crystal lusters. It is not about things that money can buy. It is beyond money. It has become a shift from the tangible to the intangible. Today, luxury is about space. It's about time. It's about experiences. It is about health. It is about safety. Now, safety not just being a question of being shot on the road, but also of having the opportunity of drinking fresh water, breathing fresh air, but also being in an environment where you're left in peace. Paparazzi-free zones, we just heard it. And depending on who you are, this has an enormous value. So much that people started to move away into some kind of a parallel universe. It's about hidden luxury, where you do not need to show off with what you have, but with things beyond. Now, what this is, we shall be talking about today, this morning. I take great pleasure in introducing to you my panel co-attendees. From your right, I have Al Merchant, who traveled all the way from Los Angeles, from Myriad. He is somebody who has written, who has a lot of experience in the US market. He is, so to say, our scientific conscious today on the board. Then next to him, I have Marcus Kral. He is the director of new business and PR marketing of Ocean Independence. He represents a company that distributes mega yachts. So we just spoke about the definition of a mega yacht. So just for your understanding, anything beyond 24 meters is a mega yacht. Further on to his left, we have Arnaud Girodon. He is the general manager from the Datai hotel in Langkawi in Malaysia, and maybe one of the finest hotels there is in Southeast Asia. And last but not least, to the far left, I have Pierre Guggenheim, who is the advisory to many royal households, to noble families, to heads of state. And if anybody knows what these people really want, then I guess it would be him. So before we get started, may I ask your short attention to the live voting question of today. Which in the ideal world should be like somewhere on my screen now. Oh, here it comes. So, how extensive is the change in the concept of luxury? It will sooner or later impact the whole market. Or secondly, it only affects a small top-end market segment. Or thirdly, there is no fundamental change in the concept of luxury at all. So please do give your answer now, and then we'll get cracking straight away. Well, thank you very much for that, and now let's get started with maybe one quote which I was given about 2 weeks ago by an abbot of a monastery, and he said, "Luxury is anything what money cannot buy." Al, straight over to you. What do you say if you hear such a statement? What does the US market say if you hear such a statement?
Well, I can relate a personal story. I used to have a mentor who told me, you know, Al, in business, there's no problems, only expenses. And I think that applies to the luxury market too. There is no problem. There's always a purchase price for something. The question is, how creative can we be to fulfill what they want? I think it's interesting because a lot of times we want to define luxury, but the consumer will define luxury for us. The whole paradigm has changed from us defining what they want, for them now telling us through social media, through response, what they want. So the idea of luxury, to your comments before, is not so much the hardware that we deliver, but it's the software that we deliver. How do we fulfill what they want, anticipate what they want, and try to get ahead of it and offer them something that the person who stayed the week before didn't get, so they can get something unique and one-of-a-kind bespoke experience for themselves. In the US market, there's no question we're ready to pay for that. And we want those bragging rights, and we're ready to pay for that too, as long as it's bespoke and we feel like we're the only ones getting it. And we'll give up the Rolex watch, we'll give up the purchases that we wanted before to do the experiential part. And that's a huge shift that we see from consumer, high-end luxury consumer goods to high-end luxury experiences. What those experiences can be might not be on a property. It might be a charity event. It might be a behind-the-scenes activity. It might be something that there is no menu for it. It's a custom-made dish. And that's what the consumer wants out of that marketplace.
I just can see that Marc is kind of frilling his nostrils, especially when it comes to some of the tangibles. Now, you come from a field where it is all about tangibles. It is about big and bold, strong statements in Cannes or in Saint-Tropez in the port. Now, if we talk about hidden luxury today, I can't get away of this feeling that we're looking about a strong contradiction here. What do you have to say?
Oh, it is a strong contradiction because we are doing both. We are doing charter and we're doing sales. And after the Lehman crash, there is the highest number of yachts in build today, 770, if I'm not wrong, on the world, between 24 and 180 meters. But the charter is also strong. So there are still people who want to own a yacht, but we see a slight increase in people who don't want to own a yacht in the younger generation. So we have more customers now between, I mean, if we talk about young and yachting, it's from 40 years on. Yeah? Our youngest customer was 10 years old, but from 40 and up. So we see our old clients introducing their kids or relatives to the yachting market because they experienced it before with their parents or grandparents or whatever, and now we have the next generation.
How exciting. You just mentioned something which we have noticed, and there is a very interesting study which was published about a year ago by the Gottlieb Duttweiler Institute in Zurich that speaks about altogether a development in this luxury style, so to say. You talk about an infancy stage, about an adolescence stage, about a saturation stage. And may we agree today that we're not talking about the infancy stage where people are still thrilled by having a big yacht, and if the neighbor has a 50-meter, he would like to have a 60-meter yacht. But once they have these tools, once they own or not own such a place, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to show off? Are they going to take it to secret places? So what is beyond having a big, bold ship?
Yeah, I can tell you 90% of our clients are interested in family time. So they are chartering a yacht with their kids and with their grandkids to spend some time together. 1 week, 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the maximum. I mean, you have some clients are chartering 6 weeks, but this is an absolute exception. 1 week, 2 weeks with their family in a small place, in an independent place with a personalized service, And it's a floating hotel, yeah, small hotel, a yacht. This is always a description we tell to people who don't know anything about yachts. And then but the hotel is not fixed. You can just go anywhere, and this is what they want.
Which takes me to you. Well, hopefully yours doesn't move. Hopefully yours is fixed to the ground.
We are floating.
So you are floating. Now, does that need to worry us or not? So the hotel, how do you get away with this phenomenon of the rich and famous? Do they come with a big bang as well, or do they kind of sneak into your hotel because they really want, as Al mentioned, these bespoke experiences away from the crowd? What do they do in your place?
I think the Datai is a pure definition of getting away from it all, A, by its location. And I think there is a growing portion of the luxury market that just want that. They just want to get away from it all. They don't want paparazzi, they want very high level of security, discretion, they want seclusion. They want large villas with butlers that can be very service-oriented or actually off, so that they don't bother them too much. And maybe not their whole holiday time throughout the year, but at least a portion of their year, they just really want to get away from it all. And that's why they come to places like the Datai, so that they are in the middle of a rainforest, they have their private beach, and they have their secluded villas. And I think there is a very, very high growing portion of luxury travelers that just want that.
Can you agree on that? Pierre, we just heard that it is not so much about us defining on what the guest wants, but now the whole thing being turned the other way around, of the guest trying to tell us what they want. So what does the people that you consult, the people that trust you, what do they want? Or rather, what do they not want?
Well, in principle, it's a way of luxury defined by their own needs. In many cases, it's the way they live their own life the whole year, which is an extension when they go off on a travel journey. It's not always just as many other people would look like as a holiday experience. It's for them going away from where they normally live, but continue to have the style. So therefore, the luxury demand remains the same. The quality of service becomes a very important thing, and I think what we have heard is discretion makes a major thing with the security attached to it. Feel like being at home, but away.
Very well. Al, so what you have to add?
I think it once again goes back to the question of what is luxury. I think we're talking about a lot of hyper luxury too, if it's the big market. And I think part of it is this question of how do you market to these people? And the reality is it's quite often not marketing at all, it's sales. Because they don't want to see advertising for something that they want to see. They don't want to go. They want to know that they found out about it some way else. So a lot of times we'll recommend more public relations activities than advertising activities. We'll talk more about the sales and working through the distribution network. I think once again in the US, the distribution channels, the travel agent has come back predominantly on that luxury market because the consumer wants an expert to advise them, and then to advise them one more step. Not only is this the place you're going to go, where it has all the amenities, that's a given, but they're going to be able to customize, or I'm going to listen to what you want, I'm going to understand you as a client, and I'm going to anticipate that and give you what you want. As much as there's all this conversation about AI and artificial intelligence, at that level, they want someone to say, Marcus, this is what you've done for the last few years. I can anticipate when you go to this destination, you're not going to be happy with just the safari. We're going to actually have a dinner at the Maasai home, and that's going to be your luxury event. And that consumer will pay for whatever they need to pay for to have that, because that will be their experience. And to them, that's now the luxury experience, not the 6-star, 7-star dinner out in the bush. It's that private dinner with the Maasai.
Can't agree more. Experienced it. I guess there's two things which you mentioned which I thought was quite interesting. The first one is it's not about amenities. It's not about about all these kind of things that infrastructure gets you, that's a given. It just goes that extra step beyond. And yet I find one thing quite interesting, and again somehow a problem for hotels in particular, is you're this secret little place out there. Now, how am I going to handle that? On one side, you're trying to keep the discretion of your guest, and at the same time, it's a great story if you know that you have your Royal Highness XYZ being your guest. What do you do?
Well, I think the most important is to respect the guests, discretion, if they want to be discreet. But at the same time, that's why they come to places, in a way, it's just they want to experience what's there, and the local experience, whether it's a dinner with a Maasai or with us, a tour with our naturalist in a rainforest. So it's got to be well scheduled, it has to be on one-to-one basis, and we have to make sure that, we respect that privacy with the timing we go on a tour, with what we do at that tour, and make sure that we give that local experience that they are wanting to. And I think that's what it is today. I think you mentioned it, Al, is that they really want to get real experience from where they go. They don't want a copycat of what has been done and dinner on the beach and go on a tour that's done by every hotel, right? Or separate table in a restaurant. Yeah. They really want to get into very unique experiences to the place they visit, right?
The real deal.
Yeah. So for us, for example, it's all about nature. They want to discover this rainforest. They want to have tours. They want to have a dinner in the middle of the bushes. Sometimes they want to do overnight camp even. So this is the kind of experience they want to experience when they come to a place that is, lost, like we are, right? And in the middle of a 10 million years rainforest. That's what they want to experience.
Now, how does His Majesty take it if he's so terribly discreet and low profile that nobody knows him, yet having his understanding of what he wants, and then you have 20 people in the rainforest?
Well, that's a big debate in between, and that's how you have to manage then the situation. But as you have said, if you come with a large group of people, which usually, depending on the area the customer is from, and you look in the Middle East, you have widely groups which traveling 30, 60 people together. So it becomes very difficult to have that unnoticed in a hotel. So one of the solutions is you stay either in a bigger hotel where you take the whole floors up and you seal that off, and then you are again enter in and out unnoticed, or trying to do so. Or in a smaller hotel, you take the whole hotel and you lock it for the period of that time to keep that requirement somehow alive, no?
Or you make the whole thing floating.
No, exactly. We have the same problem. I mean, the most famous port to start in on the Côte d'Azur is Cannes, and people don't want to be seen normally, but they come in with their helicopter, drive with the car around the port, getting out of the car, not in the middle of the night, in the afternoon when the charter starts. And then they are, hello, here we are, but now rope's gone and we leave. But it's a contradiction, because they will be seen for sure, because in high season, July, August, is the Côte d'Azur is full of people, full of tourists, and we have people from TV or from the sports business or whatever. People recognize who it is. And there is this contradiction. They want privacy, but on the other hand, they want to be seen.
Do we need to talk about old money and new money maybe?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny, and we were talking before, sometimes new money now wants to act like old money.
But they don't know how.
They don't know how. They need to be educated. Because it's beyond that bling bling. Or they go through that bling bling very quickly. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so we see that very quickly. But then when they get to that 40-year-old part, they start thinking more about tradition, they start thinking more about family, and they start thinking, how can I pass on what I've been lucky enough to have to my family? There was a recent study, and it really struck me. I'm not sure the terminology was right, but it was a question between what's the difference between the average and the affluent. And there was a couple things that were interesting. One was the average like to talk about the past, the affluent like to talk about the future. When I think it comes to travel and tourism, the one that struck me was the average want to be entertained, the affluent want to be educated. And I think when they're traveling, especially when they're traveling with family, they want that family time, but they want this to be an educational experience too, in some way, shape, or form. And quite often they're traveling because they want that cultural experience. They want to educate that next generation about the culture. And so the more we recognize that as a need, the more we're able to service them. And quite frankly, it's a great reflection on the destination too, if it's done well. So it can really serve both purposes.
Education, I guess that's a big topic in your part of the world.
Indeed. But as I'll say, guests would like to be educated as well. They are very well educated, our guests that come to the Datai, no, for sure. No, but they want to learn, and they want to learn about what's around them, right? Whether old and young and old alike, right? So they want to learn for our resort. They want to learn about nature, its protection, and how it's developed, and how can they contribute sometimes to the protection of it. So that's why we have a team of marine biologists, we have a team of naturalists, we have a team of medical plant doctors, because that's a demand, and I guess we have a lot of affluent, I guess then. So that's one part, and on the other part, you need to make sure that you educate your team members, your employees, to respond to those needs. Right? So there is a very strong effort in training to be done, and not anymore in the training on how to serve on the right or on the left or clear. That's all passé, right? It's all more about behavior. How do you respond to guests, to this luxury guest that really demand a different experience? How do you educate them to be discreet? How do you educate them to be, like you were saying, Middle East guests, you need to be very much where they are every time. They need to see you all the time, right? So how do you educate this different profile of guests to make sure you at the end, fulfill their needs and go beyond that? So yes, education is very important, for the affluent guests, but also for your team members here.
So very true. Couldn't agree more. Gone through the same experience over and over again, and I guess Pierre can actually confirm that as well, that in particularly understanding that most of us coming from a not top affluent, top luxury, top end, ultimate royal household environment.
Not yet.
We'll work on it. Needs a bit of extra training on ourselves, understanding what is a royal protocol, what are the rules of etiquette in this environment to cope with this kind of clientele.
Which is actually what Al said in the beginning. I think you have the distinction between today the software and the hardware, whereby the property as such is the hardware and the software would be the service. And I think on the service is something where a lot of the properties needs to adjust to its individual customers. And I think then again, that defines by the region of the customers, because those demands are in a different way. You have certain customers who like to be more different in the service, accept different things, have a different idea what they expect, and you have then on the other side again the very classical side where the demand, the training, the discretion, etc. comes to a very major element. And I think one of all the stays, whether I guess it's on a yacht or in a hotel, it's the culinary part. Next to the service level, the attentiveness. And the attentiveness is mainly there, which I think is one of your slogan, Marc. The answer is yes. What is the question? And I think this is all about what it comes down to the person, without the person needs to ask for, that the team and the service staff is ready to recognize in a way that they are not pushing, but ready when the customer expects certain things. And I think this is one of the key elements of a successful trip or stay for the clients we're looking for.
Marcus, you've gone very quiet. What do you have to say? Are you totally in agreement, or
No, I agree
worried?
with Pierre, and I mean we are looking for crew on these vessels. I mean who operate 24/7 during the season, preparing a dinner at 3 o'clock in the night when they come back from the club in Saint-Tropez or whatever. But this is the big problem we are facing in our industry: the lack of good crew. So. There's been put a lot of effort into to find new people who like to work on yachts, which is well paid and sometimes even tax-free. But so if anybody wants to send a CV afterwards,
Advertisement.
it is a good job, but you have to be aware you are full on 24/7 during high season, or if the yacht moves to the Caribbean afterwards, you have 2 seasons. If you're lucky, the owner stays in the Met, but this is
But tell us,
what we need.
what's the challenge? Is it the quantity of people? Is it the quality of the people?
No, the quality.
Is it the training of the people? I mean, we have, I don't know, 250,000 hotel schools around the world and more hoteliers than hotels. Now, how difficult can it be to get some good trained people? Or is it just, where's the lack?
I don't.
Especially the tax-free income sounds like exciting.
Exactly. I don't really know. It's the lack of quality people. And after they have done 2 or 3 years, they don't stay forever in this job. They are 2, 3 years, and then they move on. They are getting a family, or they like to work in a hotel. It's more relaxed.
I think it's also, you know, there's friendly service, which you'd get, make everybody happy or unhappy. You get friendly service like in Australia. You know, she'll be right, mate. I'm not sure when she'll be right, but she'll be right. Okay? You get good service in the US with a hand right underneath it to pay for that service. But in a place like Thailand, you get hospitality. And it's that sincerity, that warmth, that I want to do this. I don't want to do this because the manual told me to do this. I want to do this. I was at one hotel and I was amazed at the level of service and the staff, and it was a real variety of people from around the world. And I asked the GM, how is it that they know instinctively not to say, oh, the restroom's there, but to walk that person there? I'd love to see your manual. And he said, it's easy. We tell all our staff to treat every client, every guest, like the guest was their grandmother.
Okay.
And it was great because it cut across all cultures, and it was an instinctive thing to do. The person has to feel that. Otherwise, the guest is going to know it's mechanical, and they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of times, and especially with guides, when the experience is great and the guide's supposed to have lunch somewhere else, the family says, no, you eat with us. That's a luxury. That's a luxury for the guide, but it's a luxury for the family too, because that's really that immersion that they want to get out of it. So I understand that it's really hard to get those people who
and it's a selling
instinctively want to do it. And full circle back into the marketing, it's almost impossible to put in a brochure, oh, we have the friendliest staff. Oh, yes. Well, who doesn't?
Well, I guess that makes you the ultimate expert, or especially your part of the world. So it's all about, I guess one of the key things is it's not about grinning, it's about smiling. So it's this, as you say, you call it a sincerity. It's about this authentic approach, about this authentic love to what you do, to the people, to service. Yeah. So that makes you the pros that should go to his cruise.
Yeah.
Train them to smile.
Send some over.
Well, actually, after 3 years, they'll come back anyway, right? No, but our biggest star in the hotel is a gentleman called Irshad Mubarak. He's been with us for 25 years. He's our naturalist. He's been on, and why his love is because of his passion, his smile, and his very casual approach. He's a very well-knowledge gentleman. But it goes to what you're saying. Is the heart that he puts and the easiness he puts the guests in front, no matter who they are, whether they're head of state or whether they're rock stars or you name it. They are humbled because of the genuinity and the smile and the welcome and the grace and the level of education and knowledge that he has. So, and in Asia it's more easier. It's easier to get really service from the heart. You just have to nurture it, because it's, I've been in Asia for the last 12 years now, and Thailand or Vietnam or now Malaysia, and you just have to nurture that. And like the general was saying, is that treat the guest like you'd be a grandmother or grandfather, because they have this patriarchal approach. And that's true. You just have to nurture it. You don't have to force it. You never do that. You just have to learn to change them the technique. But the smile is already there. The sense of hospitality is already there. So just nurture it. And I think that's what the new luxury guest wants, at least when they come to Datai or they come to hidden luxury properties, is they want real interaction. They are fed up of people playing a role. They want real people, from really natural heart and from the heart.
So Pierre, that means that we're not going to address them with Your Royal Highness anymore, but Hi Grandpa.
Not really. I think the smile is an important thing, but I think at the end of the day, the profit relation is the key element. I mean, the person needs to know how to deliver the service and how to apply it. I think that's one thing. You might have a person who has a beautiful smile all the day, but does not actually help the person's needs to fulfill. And I think the combination is, and I think what you said, Marcus, is certainly one thing, that the good staff, after a certain while, either change or leave. And I think one of the reasons is because your clients actually hire him then as a personal staff to his own family team.
Yes.
And that is one of the critical issues. So the good people go then with the customer someday and become an integral part of the group of people then serving the needs for the people.
It's a big selling point for us. I mean, the crew. We write very detailed crew profiles and send them over, and even the client asks, is the captain still on board? Is the chef still on board? I like the chef stewardess because she's so friendly with the kids, whatever. So this is a big selling point for us. And even, I don't know with Pierre, but the security. I mean, all these clients are a little bit afraid, even with their traveling with their kids or family. Kidnapping, for example, it's an issue we have. I don't know if Pierre, for sure.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, this is one of the elements. I mean, the security as such is, and I think a lot of people ask why people always return to the same place of hotel or going with the same crew. It's because they know the crew and the crew know them. So it's not a learning process again where they start, and that's why many of those people hardly change the property in a particular city. They're looking for new ones to explore, but on places they go, and mainly in cities, etc., or resorts, they're always going back to the ones they know, where they had a good experience, where they feel comfortable with the service and the people who serve there.
Yeah. Which actually takes us back to the title of this event, the hidden luxury, and the importance of incognito traveling. Mm-hmm. So you may have to do some serious training with your people when they just come in with the choppers and the Ferraris roaming around in Cannes,
yes.
And yet asking for the safety and security. Al, what does the US market do there?
For safety and security?
For safety and security.
Because
when you're number one,
avoid high schools and elementary schools, unfortunately, in the United States. I mean, I think it is a very big business in the U.S. as it is globally, and I think there's an understood risk, especially in the U.S. anywhere you go. So I don't envy the people who have to do it in the U.S. for sure, but it is a concern on this high end front. The bad part, too, is security then alerts paparazzi and interest even more if there's not security. And I think in places like LA and New York, people are used to it now and they accept it, and it's just part of the game, so it's not as obvious. And it's just part of what it is today. So.
Safety and security at the Datai. Well, what happens to me if I come?
Well, for us, the bigger threat really for the customers are the monkeys.
Okay.
So we told them not to feed them and close the doors when you get onto the balcony. Okay. The macaques in particular. But joke aside, it's very, very hard to come to our base. So we are very stringent when it comes to security, and that becomes a problem whether the other debate is whether the hotel is a public area, especially your lobby, or it is not. And sometimes you got to go against the horde and make sure that you privatize your entrance for any guest that comes. Especially when you have a head of state who really want to get incognito. Two, you have to make sure that you train all your frontline and more specifically your back of the house and your telephone operators, etc., to be extremely discreet and not reveal the name. And three, the war thing is autographs. You got to make sure that there is no autographs taken, in any way, shape, or form. But I guess when you have employees that have been used to receiving those type of people, and like we have, more than 40% of our employees have been here for the last 25 years. They know this, and they keep on nurturing the newcomer that comes to make sure that they respect this privacy, and that's very, very important. But we do not also show a lot of level of security as physical person. We are, because they don't want that neither, So we are very lucky, I guess, to be in the middle of the rainforest, which is what I said, the biggest threat are definitely the monkeys, yeah.
Digital media, safety, hidden luxury, social media. Now, what is the future concept? Do we try to kind of reduce it, take it away? Because how quickly do we take a little shot with our smartphone, set it on YouTube or into the internet, and it travels around the world? Now, is social media a threat to hidden luxury, or has it just become part and parcel of our standards? How do we cope? What do we do? Do we get back to the monkey state where we have no more of all these technological infrastructures? What do we do?
Well, and it is both. For me, I think social media is both a threat and also it's just part of what we are living with. Same applies to the person that actually travel, those rich and famous. This is what is very hard to control, extremely hard to control, because you can't avoid people taking picture to where they are, and by default taking picture of the person that is there and posting the thing that you see who's there. Now you can control our own, that we control very well, of course, and we employ, people that do that, but you can't control other guests taking picture. Not obviously, because that you can control, but non-obviously. That's a difficult one to control, but generally it goes to their private, it doesn't become public. So, yeah, you have, except banning mobile, which you can't do, there is not much you can control on social media when it comes to their private use of their mobile phone. Very, very hard.
Much easier on the boats? No monkeys?
No monkeys at all, but lots of mobile phones, for sure. We can't control it. I mean, we see that we can reach new customers through social media, Instagram, and posting, lifestyle images of nice yachts. But people are like very diverse. You can follow David Geffen, who owns a 130-meter yacht. I can say it here because you see it on Instagram. He's posting every week a photo with him, with P. Diddy, or what's his name now, or there's some other people sitting on his yacht, a nice company, and you can follow his life. Our clients are normally not that famous, owners of medium-sized companies, and if they post something, nobody will really recognize. But the social media itself is a useful tool for our marketing, yeah, for sure.
The other day I had a project on my table, and the question was, how are we going to handle this whole technical infrastructure in a hotel? For the top end, not the high end, the top end. And interesting enough is I was told from different sides that please don't do anything, because safety is not guaranteed. We don't need to look across to you, Alan, what your guys are doing in Washington when it comes to internet and other stories. And today you would have... And so today I understand that there's an increasing amount of people who say, look, get me out of any technical environment, let's go on a business walk in the forest, where there is no cameras, where there is no microphones, where there is no mobile phones, where there is no access whatsoever. Pierre, Royal Highness in the forest. How does he run around with YouTube, or how does that go?
No, I think that people are more concerned about what is in the rooms. I mean, we had recently meetings with people where they did not allow the guests coming in with mobile phones. So it's really depending on individual person. Few people don't mind. Other people are more concerned about that. And I mean, we had certain people, they just said no mobile phones, everybody had to take it off, no cameras during the dinner, etc. But that's very rarely yet. But I think for many people the question is today to keep a low profile. And I give you here just what happened on Monday. We had a lovely dinner in Paris with the Royal Highness from the Middle East. When we left the hotel, nobody actually spotted us, but there was the daughter of a very prominent film actor, and everybody just took the pictures out of her, and we walked out of the hotel completely unnoticed. And I think this is one of the elements where people think it's not really an issue if I'm taking a picture or not, I'm doing a normal lifestyle. And I think the security aspect on that is certainly a part of the individual person.
It's also, I mean, we have some clients and we have certain people who are trying to promote a digital detox.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've all become so addicted to our phones. I heard someone say, I'm curious, how many people take their phone to bed? Oh, admit it, you do. But you don't think you're addicted. But if I change the word phone to beer, and you took a beer to bed, I'd be worried. The bottom line is people still want to feel connected, no matter what. And even if they're not using it proactively, they might be using it reactively just to still be connected. In the US, this is not just luxury, across the board, 66% of people say that they will check their emails while they're on vacation. And you know the other 35% are probably lying. Right? Mm-hmm. So we still want to be connected. There was a river cruise operator I just talked to, and he said last year he was complaining because they didn't have the best digital plan for Wi-Fi. But he admitted that the millions they spent on Wi-Fi last year were higher than what they paid in fuel. But in the interesting analysis, it's what kept the cruise line moving forward, because that connection, people were constantly posting their experience on the river cruise, and they knew that was very valuable for them, for future cruisers, for future guests, et cetera, et cetera. So that was worth the investment for them, for these people to stay connected, and now it becomes a pride for them that they're the best connected ship. Mm. And that could be a tipping point for certain people to stay connected.
So this has become a marketing tool altogether, albeit it not necessarily being what the guest should do, would do, want to do. I remember having run a hotel in the Maldives. We didn't have any TV sets in the rooms, with the understanding as long as there's no green clouds along the horizon, you'll be fine. But that caused quite a bit of a kerfuffle. So as you say very much, it has become part and parcel of what we do, what we need. So it's kind of difficult to take it away. However, saying that, maybe when we talk about mice business in the top-end industry, it's worthwhile discussing a digital detox zone. It is maybe worthwhile discussing zones where we really do not have this potential breach of safety in a room. Let me wrap up and put out one last statement which was given to me by a Swiss TV journalist about a month ago. And that person said is, you're famous, therefore you're important. Or is it you're important and therefore you're famous? What are your guesses? Are they important, are they famous, or are they both?
There are surely both, but I think going back to the topic for me, it's not only about the famous that wants to get the hidden luxury. Anybody that can afford wants to get into hidden luxury. So we don't have to deal with only famous people, right? And they don't want to feel important. And I think that's the answer to a certain extent is they want to get to hidden luxury not to feel important. That's why they get away, right? So they are famous, but they don't want to be perceived as important when they come to hidden luxury. And we have to make sure we respect that wish of they are important for us, but we want to make sure that they feel that we treat them like, the real people, really. They don't want to feel important when they come to hidden luxury. They want to relax. They want to get away from it all.
In one word, humbleness.
Humbleness.
Pierre, important or famous?
Rather highly demanding.
Okay.
Because I don't think there is something such as important or famous. I agree with you, it's a perspective point. But those people are demanding and expecting in something, and that is what I rather would like to say than either famous or important.
The birthright makes them highly demanding. Al?
I think I've earned it. So the famous or infamous doesn't matter. I've earned it. Please take care of me.
Yeah. So I look on my watch and you are 5 minutes over time. I go with Pierre.
Very well. Good. So here we are. Thank you very much for a lovely stay. And thank you.